let's hop into some AFC South talk. We're going to talk quarterbacks. Jonathan, you've been fighting a good fight, like we said. Let's go ahead and have you kick it off.
Man, it's been a good fight. That's on one side, maybe. So just to kind of give some context to everybody in the chat, essentially I opened up a conversation saying, the AFC South quarterbacks, for the first time, maybe ever, I think ever, it looks like all four teams legitimately have a young starting franchise quarterback. Like, 3 of these quarterbacks came out of the same draft, all look very promising. But the problem is that's not the conversation, unfortunately. What's happening is that Will Levis is getting written off in very nonchalant ways that don't really make much sense. So the question, if you will, that I posed was, why does Anthony Richardson get significantly more grace than what Will Levis does? And obviously for us, being, fans of the Titans, especially people who watch game and watch tape very carefully, if you watch every single throw that Will Levis took in 2023, then obviously there's much to grow on, right? Like if you asked me why Will Levis, why are you confident in him? Then I could answer the question like, well, there's a couple of things that he didn't do well. Like there was, he has like kind of a processing issue where he speeds through his progressions, or the opposite, where he doesn't even go through his progressions. He just stares down his first read and then throws them open or tries to. That almost threw several picks in just that right there. So he's got like kind of a progression reading issue. And then obviously like his footwork needs a little bit of work. He like throws from the hip and doesn't follow through much, which you've seen him work on that a lot in the offseason. And then, he gets a little gun crazy at times, right? Where he's throwing balls that he probably shouldn't have thrown, where he's just kind of, again, trying to throw his receiver open and forcing throws. So those are some of the negatives, but the positives is that this guy can throw every ball on the field. He's incredibly accurate. He does well under pressure. Will take a shot right in his face and deliver the ball with accuracy. He looked far more accurate in his NFL debut and his NFL, rookie campaign than he did all throughout college. So there's a drastic difference in player from college to professional experience. I can make that assumption based on 8 or 9 games or whatever it was. I think it was 9 games that he played in, right? For Anthony Richardson, I asked the same question, right? I posed, okay, what is it about Anthony Richardson that everybody's so high on? PFF or the Pro Football Network, I forget who it was, said, is he a top 5 quarterback next year? All this hype around him. And so anyways, Colts fans have chimed in, and a lot of them couldn't really give me a good answer. If I'm being completely honest, they were like, he's the second best quarterback in the division, or he's the best quarterback in the South. Why? The best answer that I got was that he showed a lot of promise. He has high rushing upside, and he has an elite mentality. That's like the best answer that I got out of dozens of people. And so the problem I have with that is like, you could say that those are just like arbitrary traits. Like those aren't like tied to anything specific. And as a matter of fact, one person tried to say, well, he showed up big and beat the Texans in week 2 and he played really well against the Rams. He beat a week 2 CJ Stroud. And by the way, he didn't beat them. He went 5 of 11 for 56 yards or 55 yards.
He left the game early too, right?
Garner Minshew beat the Texans in week 2. And then
Jonathan?
Garner Minshew, not Anthony Richardson. And then the other one was the Rams game, which they lost in overtime. And he looked pedestrian. Like he had a good rushing performance. He threw for like 200 yards. The point I'm trying to make is that Will Levis should be receiving the same grace that Anthony Richardson is receiving. And the conversation shouldn't be, well, 3 of these teams got their guy. We'll see if Will Levis can do it. It should be, this division is incredibly promising and looks to be very competitive, in the years to come. And I'm not trying to say that Will Levis is the bona fide guy, right? Like I'm not trying to say that he's going to do it, right? But I am trying to say that we've seen more in the past calendar year from Will Levis to know from a talent standpoint, from a developmental standpoint, that, he's going to be able to put it together because he has these traits. And all I'm asking is for just a pure football answer, and nobody can really give it to me. So it was just a little annoying because, maybe it's a Tennessee thing, whatever, I don't know. But regardless, some of these Colts fans, most fans in general are delusional, and I get it. Sometimes you just have blinders on for your team. I understand. And you can be excited. If I was a Colts fan, I'd be excited about AR. I'm just not. I just don't understand the blind hype. That's all.
I try not to. I don't I try not to get, be blinded with the team stuff. And of course I'm a Titans fan, but I remain objective. Quarterback is one of the hardest positions to evaluate for me. But when I look at a quarterback and I'm trying to evaluate them versus other guys, one thing that I try and look at is how much do they change the game for better or worse? And then how is their temperament affect them during the game? So a guy like AR can be a game changer, and I think that's where the excitement comes from. The same thing with Will Levis. The tools they have will allow them to just completely break games if it's their day, and that leads to a lot of optimism. The second thing is their temperament in game, and this can be affected by the surrounding pieces, the coaching. A lot of times it's the coaching, and that affects how much they can change the game for better or worse. Because if their temperament is crazy, then we can get way off the rails and we'll change the game in a bad way, as we saw with, Levis in a couple games last year. But Richardson has had, and it's questionable right now, that he has a lot more around him to work with. The offensive line was a lot better than ours last year. Steichen, one of the best play callers in the league last year. Titans fans can say what they want. The guy came down here in Nashville and called a hell of a game and beat the shit out of us. So Steichen, and I'm just being objective. He's got a better play caller, a better offensive line. He has a lot more. The expectation for him should be higher than it is for Will Levis, in my opinion, just because what he has around him, especially with Steichen. And it's Steichen. I'm not sure exactly what the hell his name is. Steichen. And they've added off, really good receivers too. So the expectation should be higher for AR. This conversation should be Levis and Trevor Lawrence, not AR, in my opinion. Lawrence is the one that needs to be on the damn hot seat.
Yep.
He's the guy. And all this is for the second and fourth, or the third and fourth quarterback in this division. We all know who the best quarterback in the division is. So, it's for this conversation should be that guy's going to be the best quarterback in this division for a long time. I'm just being honest.
There's a good chance.
Who's going to be better than him?
I'm not right. We don't know.
Are we going to get Mahomes in here?
No.
Who's going to be better than CJ Stroud?
We don't know.
I know it ain't going to be nobody. That guy is different, man. And
he is. He is.
So my thing is, what's the difference with what CJ Stroud's doing right now versus if he had a two-tone blue on? What would we be saying? We'd be saying that nobody's ever going to be better than him. That's my problem.
He could be taking 2.93 seconds to throw the ball because he'd be on his back.
Well,
flat.
I'm just saying that's the problem, though. That's the thing. We got to sometimes, if we're having a real discussion, and if we're not having a real discussion, then we know we're not having a real discussion. But if we're having a real discussion, a real honest discussion about quarterback play, nobody in this division is going to be better than CJ Stroud. Let's be honest. I'm saying that as a Titans fan. Honestly, nobody will be.
I think my only point is that we don't know, and I think it's fair to say that CJ. He's far and away the better quarterback today. There's no doubt. And I think that as long as they don't mess things up in Houston, he should project to be a top 5 quarterback in the league, right?
Yes.
Like, no doubt. But all I'm saying is that there are a lot of unchecked boxes, not just for the Titans and Will Levis, but also for Anthony Richardson, right? Like, obviously Trevor he's got to take that next step, because at this point, if he doesn't, then he's just going to be a middle of the pack quarterback. That's just going to be his tag. But that's my point. That my point of this entire discussion is not that I'm trying to say that Will Levis is the best quarterback in the division or that he's going to be the best quarterback in the division. It's that I'm trying to say that this division is set up in a way that we've never seen in terms of quarterback play, just based on my evaluation, in my opinion. I think that all 4 teams have a promising franchise quarterback, even Trevor Lawrence, that should lead their team into being competitive every single year, competing for the division, competing for the playoffs every single year. So, but the problem is that Tennessee and Will Levis don't get that same grace. And the question I asked was, why? Why do they not get the same grace? Because if you're evaluating the talent of Will Levis based off of what he's shown you, then I can tell you why I think he's going to project to be one of the best quarterbacks, maybe top 2 at the very least in the division, right? I can tell you why based on the valuation. You cannot evaluate Anthony Richardson and then tell me the same thing based off of what he's done.
Who's more of a game changer?
He hasn't shown us anything.
What has Levis shown us?
He's shown us that he can progress. He is a better looking passer. He has elite arm talent, and then his entire situation changed. Talent was added on the offensive line and in the skill position. His coaching staff is the scheme has changed to favor a pass heavy offense. So there's enough that has changed that you could go, okay, this guy is projecting in a way that makes sense. I'm not saying that Anthony Richardson is not talented. Of course he is. I'm not even saying that he's not going to be a game changer. He can be. I'm just saying keep the same energy for these other quarterbacks. And you could, I'm not going to lie to you, Will, I could make an argument for Trevor Lawrence as well. I could.
Well,
I don't know if it's going to happen, but
the thing with Levis that everybody's worried about is his processing and temperament, and that's the bulk lion's share of what a quarterback does.
Temperament, I'm not worried about temperament. That's something that's a mentality switch that you can flip. Like I'm not.
You can't flip temperament, man. Brett Favre struggled with that his whole career. Quarterbacks, it's temperamental.
Brett Favre was one of the greatest quarterbacks in the game.
It worked for him. It didn't work for a guy like some of the other guys.
Do we know
a lot of the
Levis
other guys? Yet? What has he showed us last year to show that it can work? That's been a main talking point all off seasons. Levis's temperament. Callie's talked about it throughout.
He had the swag to go out there and beat Miami in a historic fashion,
and that'll also get him on the injury table too. It's been a topic. I'm not the only one saying his temperament. Callie been saying it all off season as well. It's a problem. He knows it's a problem. He's admitted him himself.
I don't think it's a but see, that's my point. Like, so sometimes it's all about like awareness, right? Like if you're aware, like, okay, in certain situations, you can't act the way he did when they had that comeback touchdown against Miami, right? Like you can't go out there and just be crazy. Like you have to be mellow. You have to be in your own head and be able to control. Because yeah, I get it. Like temperament is important for a quarterback. You have to be able to control those levels. But having the level where you can kind of break through the top and really have the energy to will your team to a victory, that's something Ryan Tannehill didn't have. That's something Marcus Mariota didn't have. That's something that most quarterbacks don't have. So to your point, just as much of a detriment as that can be, it can also be that it factor for a quarterback. And we've seen it from Patrick Mahomes also. I'm him, arguing with Crosby across the field. You know what I'm saying? Like literally just being bigger than the moment and willing his team to a victory. Like half the time, Patrick Mahomes isn't throwing for victories. He's literally just like like backyard football scrambling, converting a 3rd and 19, and then them going and winning that drive because he's just being bigger than the moment.
Has to. But he had to. His temperament is what got him in trouble. What was it, last year? Or no, the last year they had Bieniemy when they were playing high shell, just cloud defenses for him, and he was trying to throw it over the top of the cloud. They started rough. That's temperament. He had to check his temperament and say, I'm going to take what the defense is giving me. I'm not going to try and force and make a $1 million Madden throw every single time. That's my problem with Levis, and that's what he said. That's what Callie said. These quarterbacks, that's a part of the maturation process. So that's my thing. He has to mature in that aspect. That's one of the most important faults of his that I see. And he's got to process on time. But it's also because he hasn't had the foundation around him to be able to feel like he can have a lower temperament and still be able to make first downs and not feel like he has to win every down, every play for us to even have a chance. So that's going in his favor.
Look at his last year in Kentucky. If he didn't have that mentality, they'd be screwed. He had to will every game he possibly could. He had to literally be that guy. So yeah, I completely agree with you. It's a problem, but it's not a problem in the fact that it's like, oh, he's going to be screwed forever, right? It's a problem in that he's got to mature and learn, like, okay, like when the defense, and that's why I think Brian Callahan is a perfect coach for him, and the scheme is perfect for him because it's about efficiency, it's about timing, it's about rhythm, it's about getting into it. He doesn't have to go, okay, Derrick Henry just ran 2 times for 2 yards. It's 3rd and 6, and now we're definitely throwing the ball. Okay, let's see. I got 3 out wide. It's like you're playing on hard mode, and so he couldn't possibly develop in the ways that he needed to in that offense and scheme. And so that's where my optimism comes from, and I can explain it in that way. Versus Colts fans and the kind of the AR conversation is, well, he looked really good. And it's like, okay, well, if he stayed and he projected this same way, like is throwing, 20 4 touchdowns, rushing for 7 or 8 touchdowns, throwing 9 or 10 picks. Is that good? Like, it's good. It's like starting quarterback, but is it top 5? There's just a level of delusion there that I think that I'm struggling to like connect here. And that's kind of my point.
Who do you think has more talent? Who is the most, well, I'll just say this. Who's the least talented quarterback in this division? That's my question.
Trevor Lawrence.
Because I don't know about that.
It's a tough conversation because like,
what do you mean? Least talented.
What do you mean by talent? Are you talking about just like raw physical traits?
I'll say talent with raw physical traits accompanied with quarterback play. Like who is the least talented guy?
I'd still think it's Trevor Lawrence.
I don't think AR's in the bottom 2, and I don't think Stroud's in the bottom 2. That's what I'm getting at.
Coming out. I mean, he's the most physically gifted quarterback that we've ever seen come out. We're just talking relative athletic score.
Right. That's where the optimism's from.
Yeah, I mean,
the point I'm making.
Dude just turned 22 as well. Will Levis is the oldest quarterback in this division. We're just outside looking in. Obviously, he needs to improve on the decision making and all this good stuff. But if we're just looking at this division, I think Will Levis offers the best leadership out of all 4. I think he has the biggest aura, big time throw ability. I mean, he led the NFL this past season, and we're talking. I saw a Colts post earlier this week that said the deep ball is back. Anthony Richardson averaged 8 yards per throw, which is the highest since 2018 or something like that. Will Levis was 3rd in the NFL in that same metric in his rookie season with 11.1, 3 yards over what Anthony Richardson was putting out there, which they just copy and pasted what that offense had last season, where the Titans did improve and bring in people around Will Levis. So I'm not saying that Anthony Richardson is better or Will Levis is better, et cetera, et cetera. But when I'm just outside looking in, I do see that discourse. And what really put it on my map was NFL.com put it out. And one of the reporters, Nick Shook, we're talking MVP rankings. CJ Stroud sitting there 4. That makes sense to me. Anthony Richardson at 7 over Josh Allen. That shit is outrageous to me. That makes no sense, even with all that physical makeup that he has. The dude takes time to throw the ball. He's not accurate. We're just talking accuracy. Will Levis is more accurate than Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson hasn't played. He had 1 starting year at Florida, and that's it. He started, 4 games, 6 games last season for the Colts. The dude just hasn't had the time to develop, and that might be his biggest hurt to what we're seeing thus far, but also gives him the optimism to improve as well. He just needs to see the reps. It really reminds me of, what year was it? Was it 2012 where Andrew Luck was drafted?
Yep.
You can see CJ Stroud is Andrew Luck. Maybe Anthony Richardson is RG3. He's going to burn really bright at times, but he's going to fall off. And Will Levis might be Russell Wilson, who was drafted in the 3rd round, drafted a little bit later, had a better career, had actually entered those MVP candidacy, and maybe Bryce Young can be somebody like Kirk Cousins or somebody else that came out of that draft. But I think this division is a good part, and I could really see any of them taking that next step this season and entering that top 10 conversation, potentially top 5. I think everybody would agree CJ Stroud is at the top of that, probably followed by Trevor Lawrence AR, and probably Will Levis at 4. But at come season's end, I would be shocked if all 4 are interchangeable, or if somebody takes that next step and jumps a CJ Stroud or Trevor Lawrence, et cetera.
Real quick, if we're going to redraft that quarterback class, if we were picking up 1 or 2 overall, who are y'all taking at 1? I'm taking Stroud at 1. Who are y'all taking at 1?
Oh, yeah, Stroud.
It's not even a question.
Okay, now who are we taking at 2?
That one's tough.
I'm taking Young. This is just for the sake of conversation. You've been quiet this whole time, Jake, about Richardson, and you just say you're taking him at 2?
I had Richardson as my second quarterback coming out.
Jonathan.
Yeah, are we taking, hold on, important context. Are we taking them in that moment from what we knew that day? Or
now.
Are we taking them now? Okay.
Now.
I think we're taking him now with the optimism going forward.
I'm taking Levis 2 if CJ isn't there.
I'm taking Levis 3 with Young as 4.
And you want to know why? I'll tell you why. I promise I'm not an Anthony Richardson. I'm not just being a hater. I promise this is all ingrained.
I don't think you are. I just think that hat is covering your eyes.
No, it's not, bro. I promise. And look. Here's the reason why. For the past decade, every time there's been a run first or a run savvy quarterback, there's been highs and lows, right? But the ceiling has been playing in the Super Bowl, and that was with Cam Newton, right? He was one of the greatest to do it, and he had a lot of success. But what did it do? It shortened his career, and it also made that offense, when you played a defense that knows how to play the run and does a good job in the secondary and can cover man cover, then that's the worst nightmare. Like it's the same thing's been happening with Lamar. It's like, yes, his ceiling is really good, but it's never been able to go over the top. The quarterbacks that win in this league are throwing it all over the yard. Those are the
singular.
It's so my point is, and not just that, it's the injury concerns. Has played less than 20 games in his entire like collegiate and NFL career. He does not have the reps. He shines in those moments, but it's not bright enough for me to be like, yeah, I'm going to build a future off of this guy. If I'm building a team, I want a quarterback that can throw it around the yard and has some, ability to kind of move. Like, that's why CJ Stroud is perfect, because he has it's the same thing. It's like CJ Stroud, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, like all these guys kind of have this pass first mentality, but I can tuck it and get you a first down. That's all I want. I don't want my quarterback running the ball 15, 16 times a game. I do not. I want you to escape the pocket when it's relevant, take what the defense gives you, and then move the chains. That's all I need. So that's my logic behind me going with Will Levis over Anthony Richardson. I've seen more progress and development from college, Kentucky, Will Levis, to Tennessee Titans rookie mini camp and OTAs and training camp Will Levis, to Falcons debut Will Levis, and even through the bad games that he had his rookie season. I've seen him develop with my eyes. I've seen the difference. I have not seen that with Anthony Richardson. That's all I'm saying. Who knows? He might come out and mob, and then I'll be foot in my mouth in week 6 or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a good chance of that. But today, the conversations we're having today, 7th in MVP, top 5. Is he a top 5 quarterback?
I'm not corroborating that shit.
I just don't understand it. I don't. But that's my logic.
Hey, I'm not corroborating the MVP stuff. I'm just saying that he's. I can understand why the outside of the AFC South, and even within the AFC South, is higher on AR than AR Levis. That's all I'm saying. And with going back to the draft thing, Bryce Young, if Callahan could pick a quarterback out of that class, I think it's gonna be Stroud and then Young for his offense. I mean, Bryce,
I would agree.
Everything
more similar to Joe Burrow.
And that's why I say Bryce Young over Will Levis and what we'd have. And because Bryce Young, with a competent offensive line around him in that system, he's built for that. He's perfect for that. So that was my logic behind it. But
I did like Young. I did like Young coming out of the draft. The height didn't scare me necessarily, and I think we should see a sophomore bump from Bryce Young. He looks like he has more talent around him. He's going to be more.
He'll
prepared.
be much better this year.
Yeah,
Bryce Young will be.
I agree.
And Canales can call a game.
Yep.
I mean, Dave Canales is he's a good play caller. So yep. So
yep.
I'm high on him.
Yep, they overperformed offensively last year. I think Tampa Bay did, so I like him too.
He got Baker paid.
Yeah, he did. I think
Boomer Sooner.
Yes, exactly. I think the biggest thing is when we look at these quarterbacks in the division, the Titans have put the most around the player. And Will Levis he had to play hero ball last season. He had to. Or wouldn't third most pressure, highest pressure rate out of the NFL behind Daniel Jones and Justin Fields. He didn't have the choice. So to see him be able to be allowed to go through progressions, I think is the biggest thing. So I think it's so hard. I think it's very close with him and AR. So I do get where Jonathan's coming from there. This disconnect with the national media of having one so much higher than the other when they're very similar in the same boat, in my opinion. It'll be very interesting to look at.
We have not seen Anthony Richardson throw a ball where he has a defender literally in his face. He's getting knocked in his face, and he stays in the pocket and delivers like a 15-yard out, like on a rope against a very good defense. Like, those throws happened regularly throughout his rookie season. That is a drastic different Levis than we saw in college. I don't
even think it's that. Looking at Will Levis's senior year, I think that's where especially Vols fans. That's why they were so low on Levis, because that's what they were looking at. Was he didn't perform. He still had some of those things. He had to play hero ball. He lost all of the talent around him. He's playing through turf toe. He's throwing through a hurt throwing shoulder. He played through a dislocated finger. All of these things amount to what we saw that last season. But you go that year before that, he was a top 5 pick in the NFL, even before that as a junior, when he had a Wan'Dale Robinson out there. He had the running back for that Buffalo now. He had NFL talent around him, which is what got his name out there after he transferred from Penn State. I think it's always been there, but having that last season is why everybody is so low on him now, even coming off what we saw last season in the NFL. Yeah.
Good point.
All right. Well, I think that kind of wraps up the AFC South talk.